Thank you. It's really great to be here joining you from Wasilla, Alaska. Every
Wow.
person, I want to start, every person diagnosed with lung cancer has a story to be told. And I'm honored that you guys asked me to share mine and its relevancy with today's topic. I wanted to begin with the fact that my entire existence has been dependent on innovative diagnostics, a phase 1 investigational drug trial, and an investigational interventional procedure that I had merely a few months ago done. With that, I want to say that my hopes after I speak with you is that whether you're involved within the lung cancer initiative, whether you're a caregiver to a lung cancer survivor or the lung cancer patient survivor, I want to say on your own personal journey, I hope that perhaps as you navigate through these things that you might have some sense of inspiration or motivation from my speaking today. And with that, I'll start to tell my story. In 2017, first off, I'll say I am married for 34 years to my husband, Kevin, and I have 3 adult children and 5 grandchildren, the 5th of which I came up to Wasilla, Alaska to meet and greet for the first time. I gotta say his name, it's so beautiful, Darcy Gideon Rhodes. How can you, that falls off your tongue, it's just gorgeous. And he's a blessing. What I want to say also is that I am a Navy veteran from the Vietnam War era and also have been practicing in the medical field for over 45 years and nearly 40 of that as a nurse anesthetist. So I have be able to look at lung cancer through the eyes and lens of a patient, but also look at some of the perspectives from the medical viewpoint, which has really enlightened both my husband and I to things that could be done differently in medicine and should be addressed sooner rather than later. And with that, I will say that in November of 2017, I was up in the wee morning doing anesthesia for an emergency C-section about 4 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden I started getting some chest pressure, which turned into chest pain. And then I started feeling something grabbing at my throat and it started to go up my neck. And I thought perhaps I'm having some of the symptoms, cardiac symptoms from a female version of a heart attack. When I finished my shift, I went to the emergency room and they looked at my enzymes and they said, well, they're bumped a little bit, but nothing to indicate a heart attack. So they threw me into the scanner. And what we saw next was a large mass growing out of my upper left lobe. And it was attached to the pericardium of my heart and to my chest wall. A couple weeks later, after numerous amounts of labs and testing, they told me that I had non-small cell lung cancer stage 4B, that it was non-curable and it would be rapidly terminal. There would be no surgery, there would be no radiation because it had metastasized to the lymph nodes surrounding my aorta, had gone to my brain, throughout my spine, both my hips, my liver, and my kidneys, and of course, all my bones. That was quite a shock because I had never smoked a cigarette in my life. And I had just been working like everyone else in the world, just living. And to be told that I would be rapidly terminal was devastating. You could have knocked me over with a feather. When I met with my oncologist, he told me that he had done something which I considered miracle number 1, extremely novel. It just wasn't done at the time. He sent out a comprehensive biomarker panel, which also can be mentioned as a genomic testing panel to some people. And he set a part of my tumor out for that. And he said, pray for a mutation that's targetable. And I said, we're way ahead of you on the prayers. Well, it did come back identifying a mutation, but at the time of my diagnosis, only 1.2 to 1.5% of all the non-small cell lung cancer tumors were RET mutation, RET fusion, RET KIV5B fusion to be exact. And so there was no targetable therapy. And at that point, he told me that he could offer to radiate my brain so that I could remain lucid with my family as long as I could, and to palliate my symptoms with chemotherapy, that my life would be 100 days. And if I chose chemotherapy, perhaps 120 days. Well, I chose chemotherapy because I loved life and I wanted to see my children and be with my husband. And he then sent me home on palliative care. And I quickly began to become quite ill and bedridden and began the process of dying, literally. Well, unbeknownst to me, my husband was looking and he came across what I call miracle number 2. He came across an investigational, phase 1 investigational drug trial getting ready to start for the RET mutation. Without the identifying diagnostics that my doctor did with the comprehensive biomarker, we wouldn't have known what to look for. Then we knew what the nature of the beast was, and he found a study getting ready to start. He put me on a plane, and I was traveling by wheelchair to see this physician who walked in and could have been my son's age. And he said, "What would you like to know?" And he grabbed a piece of paper and he began to draw how the cancer medication would attach, how the medication would attach to the protein, and how the protein of the cancer cells was driving the cancer. And he said, "But I can't treat you because it's not considered ethical. You haven't exhausted all avenues of our standard care of practice, even though we know that your chemotherapy will not work, even though my oncologist told me it would not work, and even though the doctors told me there would be no radiation and surgery, I had to exhaust 4 rounds of chemo, which was quite hard to do. I immediately became compromised. My organs were compromised, and diet and everything was challenging. So that's a different story to talk about at a later date. But I managed to survive that, and I qualified for the study. And in April of this week, 7 years ago, I flew up, and on Easter week, I entered the drug trial. And they treated me with the utmost respect, which I need to address because people are so afraid of drug trials. I had looked at my husband and I said, "Well, what else do I have to lose? There's not a thing that I can lose, but everything to gain." And so I entered that, and I thought, we didn't know if it was going to kill me or if it would help me, but I would at least be helping someone else in the future. And so I did that. And here I am 7 years later. Now, what we found out is that the drug also treats thyroid medullary cancer, pancreatic cancer, and colon cancer should you have the RET fusion mutation. So it's something we're looking at that's not necessarily organ specific anymore. We're looking at the cellular level. And this is one of the avenues that lung cancer, the biggest cancer killer, has in a conversation with people to teach them that we can help other cancers too, because we have a lot of targeted therapies and a large population that want to live and are willing to be in studies. Number 3 that happened is this last year, pardon me, I had a knee replacement. I've had 2 hip replacements, no problems. I had a VATS procedure for my lung cancer and 3 pleurodesis and 2 surgeries on my foot. and I've had no healing problems. But with my knee surgery, I had healing problems to the point where they even considered amputation. So I came off my drug for 30 days. No more than that. I was cautioned by the drug trial physician. And on day 29, I restarted it. And it took me 4.5 months to get better. But the cancer had had time to gather its strength, and it grew over next year to twice its size in my primary tumor. A PET scan revealed that there was no distal tumor masses active at the time. And they approached me and said, would you consider having an investigational therapeutic procedure called an ELIA PEF, pulse electric field procedure, done? And I said, well, yes. And 3 months later, on my next CT scan, it revealed that the tumor had reduced itself 50%. So without the diagnostic procedure, without the phase 1 investigational drug trial, and without the therapeutic procedure, which isn't a cure, but it's a bridge to keep me around a little longer until something else comes along, I might not have been here much longer. And I want to say that cancer is really pretty darn evil, and we have a lot of work. It's work. It's a career. After you get diagnosed, you begin your next career of cancer care. And you can still have a lot of beautiful times. I witnessed all 3 weddings. I saw 5 grandbabies now born. I'm getting ready to see my mother celebrate her 100th birthday in August. I just want people to know my husband and I renewed our vows for our 32nd anniversary, 30th anniversary, I believe, because I didn't think I'd be here for 31. And I just want cancer people to still have hope and know that amongst all the bad times, you still can fill in with positive experiences. As far as funding goes for research and federal funding, I think in every presidential administration, there has been sorely negligence for any lung cancer funding and research. And there's a lot to do. We have an innumerable amount of people diagnosed every year, and the death rates are tragic. So my husband and I have participated in advocating in Washington, D.C. We've been speaking in many places and talking online. My very first experience with an LCI member to our congressmen and senators in North Carolina and during COVID even. So with that, I just want to say that there's a lot more that we can do, and we just need to have the conversations with people to let them know lung cancer's need for research and funding. And that's my story.